Hello everyone, welcome back to the Ultimate Fighting Casuals. I am Jack, and apparently this is Mystic Moz as well, because you predicted the fight completely right, mate.
Well, I was a bit on the fence, to be honest, but ultimately,
I'll give it to you.
I thought if Derek Lewis could keep it on the feet, I saw it in the second or third, and the uppercut in the second round absolutely dismantled Blades.
I mean, wow, mate, I'm so impressed, especially by like Blades, who was, I thought, controlling the fight. I thought actually winning the fight. If we just gone off the first round, I thought he won the first round.
I agree.
In great control, was learning some fantastic shots, was definitely like shooting for the takedown. I don't think he landed one, if I'm maybe mistaken there.
In the second round, there was a slight scramble,
Yeah.
but Lewis did do very well getting back to his feet and not giving up too much of a position. So
yeah, absolutely, mate. And I think that with Lewis, whilst I was watching, I was like, oh, are you hurt? You look a bit slow. Are you taking your time? I'm just watching, like feeling it out here. What's actually going on? And then you can clearly see with Lewis, it doesn't take much winding up, does it? It's just one insane uppercut, and Blades was completely gone.
Gone, mate. And just the way he fell like a fallen tree. It was like somebody cut him out from the ankles. And the lights were just off. He was gone. And I think we're going to touch on it. The sort of shots that were landed after he was out. And Herb Dean being a little bit slow, maybe.
Yeah, I think that's definitely right. I think that's fair to say that Herb Dean didn't get there quick enough. Maybe wasn't like sort of on it quick enough. These are like milliseconds. Like when you watch that, it literally is almost within a second and a half that it all goes like that. You know, Blades was shooting a takedown, Lewis knocks him out. So bang, wow. Yeah. However, as you said, he hit him 3 times after he knocked him out. The first one, you can say fair enough. He still like stood up at that point in the air. They're this close. It's adrenaline. Everything's all in it. That completely happens.
Yeah.
However, when he then hits the canvas, visibly knocked out, arms spread, hits him one more time, that just is really sits distastefully. It's sort of like, oh, you watch it, you're like, fuck, he's hit him again.
Yeah.
But then he hits him again for the third time. This is where it just sits uncomfortable with me. I am actually on the fence of the fighters, always. Like, on the side of the fighters, sorry, where it's always like, look, they're in there to do a job. The ref's the one that's there to stop the fight.
Yeah.
The fighter isn't. The fighter's in there to fight until he's told to stop fighting.
Yeah.
However, it does feel distasteful when, after you've knocked someone out in such a way, you stand up and the first thing that you want to say is, that's Herb Dean's fault.
Yeah.
To blame the referee for to not get you off another man.
Yeah, while he's still very much unconscious and was
really
unconscious for a while thereafter, so I do think it was distasteful, but ultimately I think it's so brutal and so raw that I don't think we can really hold them accountable to the same regard.
I think you're completely right, mate. I think ultimately that's what it comes down to. I mean, I don't blame Derek. Like, Derek's got to do what he's got to do, but just to do it in that way and to get up and say them things, it just doesn't help the argument, does it? It doesn't help the argument of, you know, if he had just said, I'm sorry, like, not that he has to apologise, but if it was like, oh, I didn't want to hurt him, it was just because I want to do what I want to do. It's Herb Dean's fault he didn't get me off quicker. But to knock him out, and then, you know, you saw Usman last weekend going, respect on my name, respect, but like all in it, passionate, caring about things. And then when you win, your first thing is to talk about the ref not getting you off him quick enough. It just doesn't sit right with me personally. I wasn't like the best, like I wasn't happy to see it, wasn't best pleased, but I am playing a bit of devil's advocate here because I do think it is a conversation in MMA or definitely in the UFC right now that's just hot.
I agree, and I think as UFC gets more mainstream, it's going to heat up even more, and I think the only thing that's going to happen is the level of refereeing is going to improve, which I think ultimately
is Herb Dean. It's Herb Dean overall.
He is the gold standard of refereeing, and as you say, it's milliseconds on it. I do think he should have been maybe a little bit closer to the action, knowing what Derek Lewis is capable of, you know, with no wind-up, as you say, but
ultimately, I think he did a good job.
I agree, and that we're not criticising the referees at all.
Absolutely not.
It's just an interesting discussion. So following up on last week, we touched on Tom Aspinall, who looked really impressive this weekend against Arlovski, and
I am so happy. I'm really on board with this now. You fully got me on there. Fair enough. I mean, I didn't really even know who he was. I've gone back through. I've looked over Instagram, like training videos, all sorts. And just to touch on one like thing, we obviously saw how he won. It was a rear naked. It was a fantastic. Like, it got him to the floor really well. Came out of nowhere. Got him straight there, and as you said, the guy knew it was done. I mean, he literally went fuck like straight away. Like he knew he'd been taken. It was fantastic. But just a little thing though, I thought that earlier on in the fight, I was like, oh, is Aspinall looking a bit tired? Because obviously the commentator said this is the furthest he's gone in the UFC. He's only obviously fought a couple of times. Is he tired? And I've wrote on my notes, maybe tired, question mark, as I was like live commentating it or live writing. And then after the fight, we found out that when he hit him, apparently he couldn't see.
Couldn't see out of his like left or right eye.
So, I mean, that's maybe why I thought he was slowing down and looked a bit tired. But for me to maybe write that, the question mark, I wasn't 100% sure. That just shows how good of a fighter I think that is. Like, just to cover that up, just to get on with it, and to come out on top, I think that was just amazing.
I agree. I think Arlovski showed good grit and determination in not going down, because I think he could have been stopped in the first round with that flurry of punches up against the cage.
Yes,
and I think Aspinall was aware of that, so he may have been a bit wary. He didn't want to just dump all his energy in trying to knock him out.
I think he realised that actually in the fight, though.
Yeah,
personally, that, and I think that's exactly what it was. I don't think it was a knowledge beforehand. I think it was when he had him against the cage, and we've just been talking about this, we're not 100% sure. We're going to have to go not only watch it back, but get someone else's opinion. I think he punched him like in the head, like 4 times. The commentator said it was in the body, and if he'd done it in the head, he would have knocked him out. I personally thought it was in the head.
Yeah.
But I think if it was in the head, or even the body, at that point, it was an insane flurry of punches. I probably think, and Tom said he thought it was going to knock him out then.
Yeah, I think it might have been stopped.
And when he realised he couldn't knock him out, or didn't knock him out, whatever it was, I think that's when he sort of took a step back, and I like seeing that. It's to see that early on in his career, and to not just go and dump all his energy, because that could have easily gone the other way, and I think that's really impressive.
And we do see it. We saw it with Walt Harris against Overeem, a guy that hurt the veteran early on, and then ultimately couldn't get the job done, expend all his energy, and got finished.
Exactly, that's a great analogy.
It does happen, and Aspinall did really well to overcome it and show that he'd learned.
Yeah, fantastic win. Super happy for him. I can't wait to see him keep going up in the UFC. We're not just going to get into crazy predictions, but I think there was a few other heavyweight fights on that card.
Yeah.
Maybe one of them, and then I think a Rozenstruik, a bigger name, like a top name at that point. But this is massive for Tom. I'm super, super happy for him. I hope he takes that English flag to the top.
I agree. Love to see him do it. So big up. So coming up next week, we've got Biggie Boy Rozenstruik versus GANE. And I think it's going to be a really, really good fight. Both guys incredible on the feet. GANE has shown his versatility across all areas. He's got a heel hook, chokes, elbow finishes of veterans like Junior Dos Santos in his last fight. So he is up and coming. He's 8-0, and he looks dangerous as hell.
I mean, I'm looking forward to watching him fight a little bit more. I'm not gonna lie. I knew I'd watched him fight like live somewhere, right? And it was around like the end of December, especially when we were talking about making this channel, when we were like ramping up watching UFC. And it was on the 12th of December card when he beat Dos Santos, and I remember now. I actually can remember that fight, and I actually realised that this guy could be like an upcomer in the heavyweight division. 100%. I think it needs a fighter like him, someone who can come in and mix things up, someone who can do a couple of like different things. That he said he won with an elbow, like seeing stuff like that, and especially at the heavyweight where you're used to seeing throw bombs, knock each other out. It's good to see. Absolutely,
and he's part of this new breed of heavyweights. We touched on Aspinall and how good he looked just moving through ranges and being bouncing on your feet. Just because you're 240 pounds, these guys are 240 pounds but scaled up from 155 pounders, for example. And they move like lightweights, but they can knock each other out in one blow. It's scary, but it's absolutely fantastic to see.
So Rozenstruik also has an insane kickboxing record. It's just as good as Adesanya's, which speaks volumes if you ask me. And absolutely. I think that, Rozenstruik's got way more experience on the feet, so I could say that maybe this ended up on the feet being a little bit dangerous for GANE here. What do you think?
Yeah, potentially. I think we've seen Rozenstruik be outstruck consistently by Overeem. He only had 2 rounds going into the 5th on all of the judges' scorecards, so he was really getting beaten until he obviously knocked him out. And he is capable of that in the 5th round. You don't really see that from a lot of heavyweights, still having the energy and the power to be able to pull that off. So GANE has got to be conscious of that. But ultimately, I think that he offers more on the ground, and because he is more diverse, he's going to make it more of an MMA fight and try and make Rozenstruik uncomfortable.
Sure. I think if Rozenstruik, a good way to make him uncomfortable is stretching him out to that 5th round. Like if you're going off of previous fights, things we've seen, and like, look, if I think with a heavyweight, sorry to you just said it, but like I think if they get to that 5th round, it's really a bit of a 50-50.
I agree.
I mean, obviously it depends on who's taken the many hits and significant strikes or whatever during the fight, but I do think that it can go one way or the other.
Absolutely.
I do think that if you're a better wrestler, then it's more actually favoured towards you. You can use a lot of your weight distribution, pushing up against them, pushing them against the cage, stuff like that. I think this is actually a bit more for me if it can actually even get to that point. Can it actually get to the 5th?
Well, I think you've touched on Rozenstruik and question marks about his cardio, but GANE is really unproven in this realm. So he has come in and he has got a couple of decisions on his record, but ultimately he has got in and out in a couple of rounds. So
sure.
A 5-round fight, I think Rozenstruik has, as I say, got a lot more experience, and that can play a role.
Absolutely, mate.
But I think with the danger of GANE's ground game, as well as his striking, it's no joke.
No.
But I think he'll get it done, and I could see it going no further than 3, if I'm honest.
So you're going 3 GANE, yeah? Sure. I'm actually gonna go for round 2 GANE here, actually, just because. I don't know. Do you know what? It's just a fun prediction. I'm just gonna throw it out. I don't know enough about these two guys and the matchup to know where it's gonna exactly go. But round 2 GANE is what I'm gonna go for here. I do, however, think that sort of at the heavyweight at the moment we've sort of got like little brackets of sort of where people are sort of fighting in.
Yeah.
And I think that the winner of this fight is probably looking for the Derek Lewis fight.
I agree.
Also, that Derek Lewis could be looking up or down, though. He can either be looking at this fight, or he can be looking at the loser of Stipe and Ngannou. The heavyweight division can be very, like, thrown around now in the next couple of months. It's definitely got some names in there and some up-and-comers.
John Jones.
Absolutely, mate. I mean, where does this all go? I think that the winner of this fight should look to fight Derek Lewis.
I agree.
I think that that's the most likely outcome, and I think that that would be a good fight overall. It'd be good for the division, because, you know, especially if it's Lewis that sort of gets that, I think that he's got, like, absolutely, like, he pretty much could have to fight for like the title in that next fight. He's right there. It's literally right there, man. That would be his like 5th win in a row against all these top names. But I think that. What do you think actually? What do you think?
So I think a lot depends on how Stipe and Ngannou goes for the rest of the heavyweight division, and actually what shot John Jones wants to call. We've heard that John Jones is going to get the immediate shot of the winner of Stipe and Ngannou, so it does put the division a little bit on hold. So I agree. I think Derek Lewis versus the winner of this fight does make the most sense. While everything's sorting itself out at the top. Ultimately, I think we're in for some really, really good fights. Might not be as big and the spectacle isn't there with the belt, but ultimately these guys are really, really good. They're diverse everywhere, and we're going to see the best of MMA. So I'm really excited.
So am I, mate.
So one to look out for this weekend, I'm just looking down the card, is Pedro Munoz versus Jimmy Rivera. It's actually the second time they fought. A really, really good fight, coming to a split decision in their first one in 2015. Since then, Pedro Munoz has gone from strength to strength in the division. He has had a couple of losses though. He's on a 3-fight losing streak. Really close fights, but ultimately, really good boxing, really good on the ground, and a granite chin. Jimmy Rivera, his last fight was at 145, so he's coming back down into the division. He's ranked number 9. It's a big fight for them both. They both need to get back in the division with a win. They both have losses to Aljamain Sterling, who's fighting Piotr Jan for the belt in a couple of weeks.
I have no fucking idea what he's talking about, by the way. I am literally, it's the division that I know the least about, 135. You know that. This is the conversation that I'm just like, because he knows so much about 135. So this is a little hint in our videos that's coming up, right? This fight this weekend, as you said, it could propel into a big fight. We've got a massive fight next weekend at 135. I mean, that's probably the biggest fight in a long time.
Yeah,
right?
100%.
I mean, it's a huge fight. I'm so excited for it. And I don't know really anything about the rest of the division.
No.
So look out for an upcoming video we've got coming up within the next week or so. And Moz is going to teach me and you guys all about like, the 135 division. And we're just going to go through it and chuck some names around.
Yeah.
Look, you've been bigging up this fight to me. I'm like looking forward to it.
Yeah.
Like, who do you think's going to win this? Come on, chuck a name at me.
I mean, it is so close. I'm going to go for Pedro Munoz just because I like his boxing's really good. Right, Rivera his footwork's better and he can land more shots, but I think that Munoz is going to wait, take a few on his chin to try and land a few bangers. And I love that from a fighter.
Yeah, so, mate. Let's keep an eye out for this.
Yeah, keep an eye out for this one. Get it on your bet slip because you're going to get some decent odds. It's very back and forth. So.
Right, so that's the end of today's video. We hope you enjoyed it. Going over last week's card was super fun. I'm super happy for Tom again, as we've said, and looking forward to a good fight in the heavyweight division this weekend. But March is round the corner. We're this fucking close, mate. So the triple title fight card that's got like 7
fights next month.
That's just ludicrous. It's ludicrous. The videos, they're going to be flying at you, all sorts of shit. Please stick around. 100%. Like, comment, subscribe, all that cool shit. Anything from you, Moz, at all?
Follow the Insta. We're going to get more content on there. Just all around. We're really enjoying it. So,
Thank you so much. We really appreciate all the love, support, and everything.